Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Monday webinar in the Quick Start Seminar Series. My name is Mike Tischer. I'm the host. We're doing these every Monday, as long as we have folks available and topics to talk about. And for those of you who are new, I see on the participation list, there's a few folks that I don't think they have been in one of those. So let me just briefly explain what this is, what we're doing here. It's called the Quick Start Seminar Series, and we're doing basically two different ones. We're doing one on a monthly basis that talks about anything that has to do with hiking, from nutrition to first aid to gear, the broad spectrum. And then we're doing one, and that's, by the way, that's hosted by Cindy Lear. And then we're doing one that is every Monday. And the focus is on navigation during hiking or backpacking and trip planning. And that's what you tuned into, so thank you very much. As I said, my name is Mike Tischer. I'm the host and organizer. I'm a senior teacher for the Wilderness Trekking School and a trip leader with a club. And I'm helped out to organize these series by Robbie Monsma and Maddie Miller. So thanks to those guys for helping me organize this. Before we get to tonight's speakers, I want to briefly let you know that we have a couple of other ones set up for the coming weeks. So next week is, again, Robbie and Dury, the speakers of tonight, they're talking next week as well, and they talk about a specific area in the Front Range that they like a lot, and they wanted to let you know what hikes you can do in that area, and that's one of their favorite places along I-70 exits 221 to 218, I believe, and 219 as well. Straight Creek North Side, it's called. So you can sign up when you go on the CMC website. And then we have Barbara Auden come back. She already gave one seminar about the Garmin GPS devices, and she's following that up in a couple of weeks, or actually might be 3 weeks, with one that talks about how to use your Garmin device with the Garmin software, which is called Basecamp, in order to transfer data, load maps, all that. We thought that's a big enough topic. We're going to do a separate seminar just on that. And that's going to be, I think it's July 27th. I'll have to double check though. So look out for that. That will be online this week, and you can sign up for it. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to Robbie and Dury Monsma, who are the speakers for tonight. If you're with the club, you probably know them. They're very active in the club, and they do a lot of stuff for the club, including helping me. But if not, then you probably should know them. If you're new, you want to be friends with them because they have all sorts of good advice for you guys when you start out hiking, which you will see today and next week, by the way.
No, Robbie Monsman.
Who said that?
Who said that? That's right. Anyway, I'm going to hand it over, and I just want to let you know that if you have any questions, please feel free to put those questions in the chat, and I will look through it and see if I can answer some of those while you guys are talking, Robbie, and if not, we can go through the list at the end and see if we can answer all the questions that folks have. All right, so I hand it over to you, and I think you can share your screen, right?
Yes, and I'm going to do that right now. Because nobody needs to look at us. Let's see, screen share.
I just see your ribbon.
Yeah, no, something happened there. I don't know what happened. I had...
Oh, I see more now.
Yes, there it is, but I don't see my screen share. I don't know what happened.
Oh, now we're getting better.
Okay.
Oh, you can see it now? Okay, good.
I can see that. Yes, you
All
just
right.
have to put it.
All
I think
right.
you just have to put it in presentation
okay.
mode.
So I'm going to put it in, slideshow. Okay, there. Okay, so hi everybody. I'm Robbie Mansma, and I know we have some people coming in from Meetup or people looking at the club, and so we'll tell you a little bit about ourselves. We're both trip leaders, and we usually lead together. We lead for the Bobcats section, which is weekday difficult hikes, I guess it is, but we also lead new member hikes, and we really enjoy doing that. We enjoy working with new members. So we've learned a lot of things about what they want to know about over time, but we also, as trip leaders, have learned what we want to know when we're planning a trip. And I think it's interesting for everyone to see what a trip leader typically does when we're planning a trip. Is there anything to add about that?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, so let's see. Oh, come on, why is it not going? Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, so Gary LeCain did one of these a couple weeks ago. And by the way, all the ones that we mentioned are on the CMC YouTube channel. And so when I say it's on the YouTube channel, there is so much stuff there already. Mike's done such a great job. Mike, is this our 10th maybe?
I think it's 11.
11th, okay. So we've been trying to keep members engaged and also people who are interested in the club. Gary did his about the history of public lands. He's a hydrologist emeritus from the USGS. We're going to do something much more granular, which is, this is geographical orientation, and we're talking about day trips. There's lots more to know if you're going to go backpacking. We have a backpacking section, but mostly this is going to be about where you would typically be able to get people to drive, maybe an hour at the most, hour and a half at the most, depending on where you're going during the day. And we'll show you the area that Denver group mainly hikes in for day trips. So I know when we've moved around a lot, and whenever we moved, it was usually Dury being transferred, and he had a whole team ready to help him. And then I had to kind of figure out, you know, Stamford, Connecticut, what do I do? So I've really gotten used to doing a lot of deep research right away on terms of maps, where things are, you know, listening carefully for how do you find out information. And that's what we've been doing as trip leaders. My co-chair, Kathy Kurtz, and I, a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we kept noticing that we didn't know where things were in relation to each other. So one day we got a bunch of huge quad maps, and we have a video on that. And we laid them out on the floor, and we began to realize that things that we knew, this one, we knew that one, well, they were actually right on the other side of the mountain from each other, and that's really helpful. So I want to do that for you today. You're going to hear about towns, trails. I didn't put passes in here, but you're going to hear about that, and different kinds of areas. And, you know, if you're going to meet at the fort, what does that mean? So we're going to go through all that, and you don't have to take notes because this will be put up on the YouTube channel as well. What does it take, Mike? A couple days maybe? And so I would urge you to think of this as a resource for you when you have a question. I've tried to pull it all together because I want to point our new members to this, or people who are looking at us.
I'll put the YouTube link in the chat box so folks have it and they can check it out. But yes, Robbie, it will take anywhere from, depending on how busy the office is, anywhere from a few days to a week before it's online.
That sounds great. And then when you go there, look at all the other things we have. We've look at, when I point it out here, you'll be amazed at how much we've done in 11 orientations. So do you have anything to add?
No, you're doing great.
Okay, so big trails, we're going to talk about that. Which ones can you access? Can you access the Continental Divide Trail within an hour of Denver, Golden? Yes. We'll talk about national, state, county parks. If you're not familiar with them, I think you should be, because we normally, especially county parks, go to a lot of those. U.S. forests and ranger districts, not always the same footprint. We'll talk about that and why you would want to know that. Carpool meeting places. And when you're looking at the calendar, the most common situation people have is, oh my gosh, I see something that's the right distance for me, it's the right speed, but I have no idea where that place is and, you know, if it's going to be good for me. We're going to show you how to look into that as well. This is not going to take you into things that you can learn in wilderness trekking school or day hiker school, which is sort of a modular version of that. There's a lot of things to know about navigation, which Mike teaches, accidents and injuries. What else? A lot of things that you learn there. Whether we're not going to do that today. This is just strictly a geographical orientation so that you'll have a better mental map of where you're going to be going. So let's see. Oh, and I want to thank especially another CMCer, Allison Galinsky. When I was trying to figure out how to do this, she drew some great maps for us. So you'll see those when we get there. Anything else? No? Okay, so here's our geographic orientation. I love this map. What does the Front Range mean? And when you hear about snow in the Central Mountains, that's where that is. Let's see, I'm gonna turn on it better. Laser pointer. Where is the San Luis Valley? What is the Western Slope? We'll look at more detailed maps later, but it's really helpful to realize the Front Range is this whole area, and we have a Denver group, but we also have a Northern Colorado group, a Pikes Peak group, a Boulder group, and we all kind of cooperate with each other, and you can go on any hike you want. It doesn't have to be just your group. This here represents sort of the usual places that we will go on a day trip without getting too far away. And we'll look at more at the counties, but if that makes sense, this is kind of the area we're going to be focusing on today. Yes? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so these are the counties that I love this map. This is one of the first maps we got when we moved to Colorado the first time. You can see Denver right here, and this is DIA and all that, but you can see the counties. I've kind of highlighted them, the ones that we typically go to, and those are the ones that we're going to focus on. If you're going on a backpack, you may go all the way over here, you may go down here, lots of places to go, but on a day trip, it's generally these counties: Jefferson, Clear Creek, Park, we were in Park today, Summit, a little bit into Eagle County, Gilpin, Grand County, and Boulder, and sometimes a little into Larimer. And we just recently started doing a lot down in Douglas County because they're starting to really put a lot more trails together and connecting trails. So Jim, I know you're there. And by the way, if you are on like Jim and you are also a trip leader, feel free to chime in or to send us information later that we left out. Okay, so I used to hear the Mosquito Range, Gore Range. I didn't know where those were. So I found this map online. It's pretty cool. I love Google. These are the major rivers and mountain ranges. Again, I put here generally where we would go for a day trip, the Front Range. And Pikes Peak is down here. And this is how I think about, you know, sort of where I would go for a day hike. This gets down right into Colorado Springs, but Pikes Peak is here. Mount Evans is there, and Longs Peak is up here, the entry kind of on the way into Rocky Mountain National Park. And those are sort of the big 14ers that I think about as sort of banding where we go most of the time. Some of these other ranges are really small, some are really big, but when you hear somebody say, I was up on flat tops, backpacking in flat tops this weekend, you'll know the Colorado River starts way up here in Rocky Mountain National Park. The Platte is the river that goes through Denver. The Arkansas is where Browns Canyon is. There's a lot of rafting here. And the Rio Grande starts up here. So you can take a look at this later and figure out what those are, where they are, and then you'll know. Anything else? No? Okay, this is the map Allison did. It's so great. I wanted to show you a couple things. One of them is, I call them the main gateways. What are the roads we take in to the Front Range? Also some of the towns that we stop at on the way in, and we'll show you that later too. We usually start somewhere along, meet somewhere along the Front Range, close to CMC, maybe down in Golden, somewhere out here. And just going from north to south, If we take 70, well, 36 is Boulder, and that takes us up here, and you would take 36 to Estes Park. You would also be able, and I'll show you this later, take 72 up, and we'll show you those areas. We do that a lot. 72 actually starts down here. So we would take 93 up, and you can see the counties that it takes you to. If we go up I-70, we usually meet at a place I'll show you, and then we just go right up I-70. Here is the Eisenhower Tunnel, the big tunnel that goes under the Continental Divide. There's another little one before that, which if I'm not paying attention, I sometimes get confused, called the Veterans Memorial Tunnel. Highway 40 comes up through Empire and up to Winter Park, and we do these areas a lot. We also go up on this side of the divide a lot, and that's what we'll be talking about next week. Let's see, Mount Evans Road. This has been so hard for me to finally get it. Idaho Springs, get off there, and you come up to Mount Evans Road on this highway. You can also get there from Evergreen, which we do sometimes. The next one is out of Georgetown, and that is, this is supposed to be over there, but this is Guanella Pass, and you can get there from down here or up there. A lot of our hikes are off Guanella Pass. You can also come over here to Silverthorne and Dillon in Summit County. I don't know if we're still banned, but Summit County was trying to keep out everybody who wasn't a Summit County resident. And from there, you can go into Breckenridge and get down to Fairplay, which is, I guess, I'm told the town is the basis of South Park. And Quandary Peak, which you may hear about, that's a big 14er right here, one of the easiest 14ers to climb. So any other things to add about this? No. 285 is here. We meet at the place called the Fort and come down through Jefferson County. Jeffco is really big, and we'll go through some of their hikes. A lot of places you can go out of Conifer, you can go out of Pine Junction. We were down in Bailey today. We were right down here. And you can go all the way down here to Fairplay. This is closed. Guanella's closed. This got moved over, but Guanella's closed during the winter, but there's still a lot of places on this side to go and on this side to go. Mount Evans is actually closed right now because of the COVID situation. So all the bikers are going up and killing themselves, going all the way up to Mount Evans. And if you, sometimes we go to Vail, and the last thing I'll point out is this big dip. You should get to know that big dip, but you'll know exactly where you are. You're between Silverthorne, Dillon, and Vail. Sometimes we come down to Sedalia and go into Douglas County. Talk about that. Okay, I found some really cool maps. This is a postcard I got from somebody, and this is kind of a visual of all the 14ers. If you're new to Colorado and you start thinking about doing the 14ers, this is a view from northwest, looking across down to the southeast this way. And if you can see, they're all named here, and they're all parts of different ranges. So remember I mentioned before, Pikes. This one right here is Long's Peak. That's kind of our area. And then these ones here, you can actually see them from Denver, not from Golden because the mountains are in the way, but this is Mount Evans, Bierstadt, two easy ones. Mount Evans, you get to from Mount Evans Road, this one you come in on Guanella Pass, and then this is Grays and Torreys, which you can see from the highway from I-70. So all these different ranges, just something to know if you're interested in that. We'll talk more about how to get information. Personally, we sort of stopped doing 14ers and we're doing 13ers because there's never anybody there. They're just as difficult and just as beautiful, and their views are great, but they're not crowded like ants going up Mount Bierstadt sometimes in the summer.
Right. Yeah, I have to say those particular mountains Robbie was pointing out are easily the most crowded during the summer, especially. You probably want to try to stay away from them in peak periods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're not going this year because of COVID, but we have a a series called Ascending Hike Series, where you start out and you do A hikes, B hikes, the distance and the gain and what altitude you're at, and it culminates at the end of the season with climbing a 14er. And that's a big goal for a lot of people. So last year I helped lead a group with Jim up Mount Bierstadt, and we lead this one on Mount Evans a lot. We like to go around Mount Evans, Frays and Torreys. There's a few that are easier, but those are available. And on the weekdays in the shoulder season, they're not too busy. Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, I was going to just point out, Colorado Press has all these different books. The Mountain Club has a publishing company called CMC Press, and Jeff Golden's in charge of that. He's a staffer, and almost everything I'm showing you, there's a book for that. So, and you get a 20% discount if you're a member, and they'll mail it to you. You can buy it online and then mail it to you. So all the ones I show are part of the press. Okay, so that's our geographic sort of introduction. Now the question is, who's in charge of it? And also you might ask, why do I care? Well, we'll talk about that. Okay, so let's start on the big one, National Park Service. Rocky Mountain National Park is the only national park sort of within our day trip area, and a lot of leaders from both Boulder and Denver lead trips into here. And we're talking all year long, snowshoe trips, hiking trips, backpacking trips, all kinds of stuff. These other ones you may have heard of, Sand Dunes, Mesa Verde, which is all the old ancient dwellings. Black Canyon of the Gunnison, I think, was just pulled into the new bill that just came from Congress. Dinosaur, this is a really fun place to go. And these areas also, this is where the Sand Creek Massacre site, which is when we talk about original sins, everyone in Colorado thinks about the Sand Creek Massacre and about the indigenous people who were here. No? Okay. And I'll tell you how to find out about those places. Okay. So it seems like you shouldn't need to know this, but it actually really helps when you do. Again, this is where we go on a day hike. The forests that we go into, they have different ranger districts, and it's not, as I said, coincident with the forest, but when you go into Pike Forest, it's different than Arapahoe. They have different people in charge of them. And if you say you're going to the San Isabel Forest, then that's where you're going. You would know where that is based on this map. If you go up to Steamboat Springs, it's up here en route. And these ones are the ones we normally go to: Pike, Arapahoe, maybe a little White River route, and Roosevelt. Yes? No? Okay, this was hard. I hope you guys can see it, but I wanted to tell you about the ranger districts because I spent so much time trying to figure out the ranger district, and we'll talk about how to get into those and find them. Why would you want to know? Well, sometimes there's a fire, there's a police action, what do they call that when there's a police action, public safety incident, things going on, and you might want to call the ranger and find out. It's gotten a lot easier to do that online than it used to be, but calling the district, they actually have people they're not the rangers, manning the phones and can, I don't know how much snow is up there, they'll tell you. So, and my co-chair, Kathy, used to actually she spent her whole career in the Forest Service, and she used to be the assistant director up here in the Boulder Forest, which is how she ended up here in Denver. South Platte is a huge one, and generally this follows the Continental Divide, which we'll talk about in a minute. So the ranger district may go to the top of the mountain, and then on the other side is another ranger district. Drives me nuts when we go and do a hike and we go into 3 different ranger districts that day, but it's good to know for who to call. Okay, I mentioned the Continental Divide. The Continental Divide Trail is one of the Triple Crown Trails, Pacific Crest Trail, Continental Divide Trail, and the Appalachian Trail. We have quite a few Triple Crowners in our club, and you can reach that for a day hike. There are entryways into this, into the Continental Divide Trail, which is really great. I used to go biking up there. I don't know what we were doing, but we were biking up there. But there's plenty of places to get in. And you can figure that out by the Continental Divide Trail book that CMC Press puts out. So it's pretty exciting because it's right usually the people on that are going like from Canada to Mexico, and they all look pretty gaunt and hungry. And it's kind of fun to run into people on that trail and find out how long they've been on the trail and what they're doing.
Just see a lot of skinny people.
Yeah, I want to do that. Okay, what's next? Oh, I'm not sure that they're in our building. Certainly the Colorado Trail is in our building, which is this one. The Colorado Trail, you can not only get this book, but there's also what they call a data book, which is, I mean, almost 100 yard by 100 yard. What's there, places to camp, places to get water, all that. And that is not one of the Triple Crowners, but a lot of people like to do it. And it actually starts at Waterton Canyon down by Chatfield. We'll see that a little bit later, closer up. But you can see here's 70, here's 285. And I think we've hiked pretty much all of this. We do sometimes lead hikes and just say, we're going to CT segment 4. So when people say CT, that's what they mean. A lot of people hike just parts of it, and then they come back and do the rest. I think I know 3 or 4 people who are trying to finish up this summer. And it's really easy at Kenosha Pass to access that trail, as well as a couple of other places. And they also are in our building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is a kind of a hidden gem if you're new to Denver. When we first moved here, they didn't even tell us that this was a couple blocks from our house, and we were amazed. This is the Highline Canal. It was an old water project, I think even from maybe the 19th century, and they brought a lot of water in. Here's Waterton Canyon, where the Continental Divide Trail starts. There's a better place to go. Remind me to talk about that. Chatfield Dam is here, and then right across the street, or about the same place that the Colorado Trail starts, the Highline Canal goes out, and it goes all the way almost to DIA. I think it's 71 miles. There's segments. There's a group that's just dedicated. I think in our club, Dorothea Froner, I think she leads a different segment or two, you know, like every Saturday in the summer. And there, a few years ago, it's owned by Denver Water, and they always had maps, but the Highline Canal Conservancy just took over about 3 or 4 years ago. And they are doing stellar work, getting rid of invasive. I didn't even know there were different kinds of cottonwoods. They're getting rid of the invasive ones, bringing back the original ones that were there. And it's a really beautiful, except for parts of Aurora, a beautiful crushed cinder trail. It's just a great place to ride bikes because it always is going downhill. That doesn't go uphill. And they're doing their best now to put in the last connectors. It used to be you'd have to cross Broadway, I think, and they're putting a tunnel in there now. Yeah.
No, it's a great bike riding route.
Yeah. It's a nice winter hike too. If you don't want to go up and deal with a lot of snow, the Highline Canal is great. Okay, let's go on to, get rid of this here so you can see the Colorado State.
Trying to see.
Colorado State Parks. It's actually Colorado State Parks and Wildlife, and if you are from certain states throughout the nation, it might surprise you that Parks and Wildlife are part of the same agency. It subsists completely on fees, and it maintains beautiful parks, but it also maintains all the hunting that goes on everywhere. And we'll talk about the Hunter Hotline later, but the ones that we usually go to, you can see in here, St. Vrain Bar Lake is out on the prairie. There are so many bald eagles out there in March and April. It's so much fun to go out and see them. And then in April, the blue herons have a huge nesting area there too. And then you have to make sure when you go that you call, because on alternate days during hunting season, hunters are across the way in a blind, and you don't want to plan on taking the trip in front of them. So it's good to know. They don't shoot eagles, of course, they're shooting water birds, but it's a huge lake and it's a lot of fun. Very windy always. Cherry Creek State Park, around the reservoir, Chatfield State Park, they've just redone a whole bunch of things around there. Roxborough, one of our favorites, that has a lot of red rock. Castlewood Canyon, kind of out in the prairie, a beautiful place, and Cherry Creek, that's where it starts, so that's fun to see. Staunton is a fairly, like in the last 8 to 10 years, A lot of people in the club go there all the time. It's a huge park and a lot of different variety. Golden Gate is another one that we go to a lot, especially I like to go there to snowshoe. And I'll never forget the first time I went to take a group up there, and there was a sign at the beginning in the trailhead that said, Hunters Active today. So we'll talk about that. And El Dorado Canyon, it's a great place. It's attached to a lot of other places, but it's also a lot of climbing goes on out there. And I think right now they actually have a shuttle running because it's so busy right now. But anyway, this is again our sort of day trip area for state parks.
Yeah, that's good.
No? Okay. Okay, let's see. This is also State Parks and Wildlife. It says they have over 350 wildlife management areas, and you can see that this is not all of them. Sometimes they're so small. In Arvada, there's a little reservoir, and that is a wildlife management area. So they're all over the state. They're managed by Parks and Wildlife. Sometimes these places overlap. Just as of July 1st, in order to go into those areas, which are always beautiful, you need to have a hunting or fishing license. As seniors, our fishing license costs $10. I don't know how much it is for other people, but it's not much. And if you're not a senior, you get a habitat stamp, and it's $10 on top of that. But the reason they're doing that is because they feel like these wildlife management areas really should be for hunters. And so they're trying to discourage hiking, but they also realize that people like them, like James Peak is a great one, Vasquez Peak, Indian Peaks, Lost Creek. And so they just need to earn a little bit more money because they're completely supported by license fees. So I think not this year, you can go online to County Parks, Colorado Parks and Wildlife and say you want a fishing license, and it took me about 2 minutes to get it done, and they'll mail it to me, or you can go buy one, I think, like at King Soopers. But I think by next year, we might start selling them as part of your membership renewal. We sell Colorado State Parks also. We're going to start doing that next year as part of your membership renewal. And because we're doing it in bulk, you'll get a discount. Anything else you want to say about that?
Nope. Except CMC is appealing some of their current restrictions for hikers. So
yeah. There's a couple areas close to town that they're saying we shouldn't be limited just to hunters. Because when hunting season for that particular place may only last a month, and they're trying to keep it for the animals. So I guess there's something to that. But the problem is you have to sometimes go through them to get to the places you want to go. So we'll see how that all turns out. And as Dury mentions, we have a huge conservation group. We have staff, and we also have a Denver group conservation committee that's so fabulous. And so anything that comes down the pike for anything happening in that affects hiking in the state, our group is on it, and we go to meetings and we provide comments, and sometimes anybody can get on their mailing list to find out what's going on, and sometimes they'll ask you to write a letter. I wrote a letter to Cory Gardner to get this latest congressional law passed, and he did it. So good.
Oh, so that's why he did it.
That's why he did it. Okay, now we're going to go to counties. Jeffco Open Space is my favorite. We live in Denver County, not Jeffco, but I send them money every year for their foundation. Jeffco has the absolute most beautifully maintained parks. The restrooms are always clean, they're always well stocked, and the parks are always well maintained. And a lot of our trips are into Jeffco because you kind of have to pass through that to go to a lot of other places. So I would say sign up for their newsletters. They close down a lot of these parks, part of the year for raptor nesting, elk calving, and then right after that, right before that is the hunting season for elk. And odd even days, and some of them, the ones that are really close to the front, like Apex, just went to odd even days for bikers and hikers. So you don't want to show up at Apex and find out that as you're hiking, there's mountain bikers there that day and you aren't allowed. So they do a really great job of involving the community. And what I wanted to say about Jeffco is for very little money, you can write them at this place right here, and you can actually buy a whole packet of all the maps. They always have maps at the trailhead, but if you want to buy a packet for all the maps, you can do that, and they're just very, very inexpensive. And there's no fee for going in them either, which is why I always donate.
No,
No?
they're great. They're wonderful.
Yeah, they are wonderful parks. Okay, this is kind of hand-drawn by me. I can't move this here, so I can't get it out there. But this is Boulder Open Space. Boulder Open Space has so many, I think hundreds of miles of trails. They're very busy. People in Boulder and down south use them all the time. They're all linked, so you can go a long way and just go from trail to trail to trail. And you can, you know, usually get there pretty quickly from the CMC. So that's up Highway 93. We just go up there and we find all kinds of places to go. Of course, there's wonderful places to go afterwards in Boulder. If you come from CMC almost and get on 93, almost the first exit is Golden Gate Canyon. That takes you to Golden Gate State Park. Wonderful state park, lots of trails, of different kinds of habitat. And you can, you know, kind of make it as long as you want it to be. We also go up in the middle between Boulder and Golden Gate is something called Cold Creek Canyon. Highway 72 meets up with Highway 119. Two of the areas that we go a lot, particularly in the winter. The East Portal is actually the portal where the water comes over from Grand Lake and the train comes through. And that's kind of fun. And James Peak, you can get to that from here. And then we also go up to Nederland, and Eldora is one of the local downhill ski areas, but you can also do cross-country ski. They have groomed trails or snowshoe, but it's also a great place to hike. Keep going, and we teach snowshoe also in the wintertime, January, February, so watch for that. Brainerd Lake is a place we go to frequently because some of my favorite places might not have snow, but Brainerd Lake will always have snow, so that's why we go there. To get to James Peak and to get to Winter Park, which is a Denver mountain park, we usually take I-70 to get to there. I think you can hike over, but you can't drive over very easily.
Mm-hmm.
You want to say anything about that?
Okay.
No? Any of this?
No.
Okay. So again, the best urban hikes in Boulder refers to this whole area.
Mm-hmm.
And Eldora is that ski area I mentioned. Okay, Denver Mountain Parks. Who knew? They have, well, Red Rocks Amphitheater is a Denver Mountain Park. They have a lot of, they have a golf course up in Evergreen. And these parks usually, the counties and the cities and maybe the state, they all kind of, they might be all put together, strung together, but be owned by different entities. And one area that we notice a lot is if you come out of Idaho Springs, Echo Lake, which is at the bottom of Mount Evans Road, and you can hike out from there. Or you can go up to Mount Evans to Summit Lake, and there's great hiking up here. High altitude hiking, alpine, it's really great. So they had a lot of vision as to keeping some of these areas, and people are now donating their land, ranchers, when they retire, and that's how we got Staunton State Park, for an example. Mm-hmm. Anything else? No? Mm-hmm. Okay. I promise you he talks. Okay, so that's the geographical, who's in charge. So where do you get trip info? How do you find out? It's so much easier now than it used to be. You can go on with no cost to you to any of these sites, and you can say, I want to go to near Eldora. You put in Eldora, and all the hiking around there, all the nearby trails, they're all there. And a lot of people use these, use all trails. If you pay some money, then you can do other things with all of these. All trails will let you download public tracks that other people have done. If you just don't have a sense of where this trail is going to go, you can do that. This is a fairly new one the last few years. It's kind of in full production now. The Colorado State, it's called CoTrex. They actually maintain that map with their agencies. They all share information. So if you want to find out about fires and things like that, they even have something right now about what's closed from COVID because there's too many people there. That's a really good one. Gaia is one that a lot of people use to not only to plan out their trips, but also to track their trips, to keep track of where they've been that day, bring it home, it syncs automatically. Caltopo does the same thing. We have some of Mike's quick start navs on all 4 of these. So if you want to find out about them and what are the things about them that are good, the things about them that maybe aren't so good, those are all at the YouTube channel. I don't have Garmin on here because Garmin is a whole system. It's the unit and the maps and base camp, which you can see the introduction to Garmin at the YouTube channel, and in a couple of weeks, I think on the 20th, Barbara Autumn will be giving you information about that. So if you want to learn about like, where do I invest my mental space and my money, all of these are great. 14ers now covers, I think, 13ers and some 12ers. What's good about that place is that the people who use that site a lot love to put in trip reports. Like if you're going to go climb Quandary Peak, there'll be several reports from today or yesterday about what's going on in Quandary Peak in terms of snow and that kind of thing. These are a couple else that I'll mention. I don't use these too much, but I know some of my friends do, and they're worth looking at. And if you want to just download GPX tracks and have a place to start before you decide where you're going to go, it's really great. The phone apps that they have that sync with your account, I can plan a trip on Caltopo or Gaia. I make sure when I'm home that I've downloaded that part of the map to my phone, and the route that I've drawn or the track that I've gotten from somebody else and it's in there or that I did myself, it'll sync up with your phone, and when you get there, it's all there for you. So it's the best thing in the world compared to what it used to be. And like I said, you can look at the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this, anything?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're getting there. This is something I only discovered last year, and I just love, 2 years ago, I guess, and I just love it. This is Colorado's, what they call Co-Trip. We started using it when we were crossing I-70 in the winter, but it has so much good information. This is just a screenshot, so it's not interactive, but travel alerts, you're in a traffic jam and you want to know why, Waze will do that, but this will also do that. All the major routes are on here. You can choose any of them that you're going to go on, and they'll tell you what the conditions are. There'll be alerts. I think I'm signed up for alerts on those. This is the one I really love also here. When I want to see if there's snow down in Kenosha Pass, I can actually just go to the road cameras on Highway 285 and see what it's looking like down there. Same thing on I-70, same thing up. I think 72 also has it. So it's just good to see what the weather's like, what the road conditions are like, and I really enjoy this app. There are chain laws now. They just put some new ones in for cars. So if you are planning on going to the mountains in the winter, you might want to check into that and make sure that you have all that you need. If you have an all-wheel drive, you don't need to worry about, and winter tires, you don't need to worry about it. Otherwise, you do, or you go with somebody else. Okay, anything else you want to say? Okay, here are the National Forest websites, and why would you want to go there? Well, they have the most complete list of all the things you can do in a certain place, what's blocked off, whether or not you can have a dog, whether the dog has to be on a leash or just under control, camping. Gary included a lot of this in his introduction, Front Range also, but these places, also a lot of the trails in these forests have numbers, which you may not realize till you get there, but once you know what a number is, it's really easy to find. So I thought I would just provide this to you in terms of, it's worth going in and looking. Okay, this is sort of my miscellaneous good places to know about. Carpool meeting places, I mentioned that before. Sometimes people get discouraged just because they can't figure out where's the fort. Woolly Mammoth parking lot, which we use a lot, is right at the intersection of C470 and 70, and it's kind of confusing if you haven't done it before. So somebody did a whole series of maps on how to find these places, but they're all searched so often that they're really easy just to go into Google Maps and find them. I think I mentioned the fort in Cabela's involves some private property where it's allowed, so, but those are so easy to find. They're not on that web page, but they're really easy to find. Right now, cmcdenver.org, eventually it will be, we're getting a new website for CMC, and this will eventually be rolled up. But there are so many resources there. If you don't know about dog hikes, if you want to know what all those weird acronyms are, like WTS and WSS and all that, and people talking, speed talking about a lot of our schools that way. You want to know about whether you're going to be left behind. I don't really know if I'm fast enough, I'm too slow, whatever. There's a couple articles on that. Clothing tips, how to get better at hiking, trail etiquette, and there's so much there. You should just go look. And that site, there's a search function kind of way down at the bottom. So I would recommend that highly. This is sort of the variety of things that we have on that site. And we have a book for that, of course. CMC Press, I mentioned that. The Hunter Helpline, I mentioned hunting. They have these people now who will answer the phone when you call and you say, I'm going up to Empire. Is there hunting going on up there right now? And they'll say yes, or they'll say no. I'm going to go up to this pass or this forest or whatever. And they also have a website you can go to. Very helpful. And as Jury reminded me last night, when you're in hunting season,
Wear some orange if at all possible, but in Colorado you can also wear pink.
Pink, yes. A certain really unattractive pink. And also, if you are taking your dog, make sure your dog has an orange or pink vest, because you don't want your dog being mistaken for a bear or something. So that is a tip, word to the wise. Here's something else that I think is really useful. It's called ORIC. It's partly, it's supported by a bunch of organizations, including CMC. If you go to the REI down at the confluence at Cherry Creek and the Platte River, right when you walk in the lobby, it is a fabulous place. They always are staffed either by retired rangers or volunteers. They have so many maps, guidebooks, camping info. They are so helpful. And lots of stuff is for free, and there's also a really nice place to just sit and take a look at some of this stuff, and they're very helpful, so I want to recommend that as well. Anything else? Okay, yeah, oh, we're almost there. Okay, I'm not going to go over too much of this. If you're on a CMC hike, your trip leader is the person who really knows about if somebody's injured or whatever, what to do. We have whole protocol and all that. But if you're up with your friends and somebody gets altitude sickness, which they do, these are just some of the places that you could take them when you come down the hill. I would just figure, I started in the north and went south. I just think you should just take a look and know where those places are. St. Anthony is sort of the big place that a lot of people head to, but we had somebody who got really sick on the trip last year, and we just took them to the Golden emergency room, and it worked out great. This one right here in Golden. So I leave this for you to look at later. Same thing with county sheriffs. Why would I have to know about who's the county sheriff? You don't, you just need to call 911. However, if you call 911, it's going to go to the sheriff, and these are the different county sheriff numbers. Sometimes I like to have that with me when I'm leading a trip if I'm going to be off trail or something, assuming I can get reception. This is not the place for talking about personal locator beacons, which are kind of the gold standard now, but we do have a YouTube video about that Dave Littke did. It's really good. So if you are in the backcountry and you don't have a phone signal, you just take that out, push the button, and it goes up to the satellite in the sky, and they will come for you. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time here. These are stops. When I'm planning a trip, we try to figure out, okay, where do we stop on the way to go use the restroom, get a cup of coffee before we get to the trailhead. A lot of trailheads have facilities, but not always. I've made you one for I-70, I've made you one for 285, and I've made you one for going north to Boulder on 93, 72, and 36. So it's so hard when you don't know where to stop. But if you have a sort of a general idea. We actually one time went up and down to 285 and decided certain places were not places we wanted to take our roster because they were just icky. So that's what you do when you're an obsessive trip leader.
Yes, we always make it a practice to try to buy something at the places you stop at. The last thing you want is a whole group of people trooping to the restroom and leaving without buying anything that doesn't make people happy.
No, and that's one reason these places are listed, because they are familiar with CMC. And usually when we go in, I'll get a coffee, I'll get some kind of Gatorade or something for the end of the day, and maybe a bar or something. And if at least 3 or 4 people out of 10 do it, that's good. I think it's only nice to do that. That's it. 7:53. So that's what I thought of that you might need. We can take some questions, and also know that we have a Denver Group Member Initiatives Committee, which is specifically designed to put out this kind of material for you. So if you have any questions, actually I monitor this email address right now, just write us and we'll be happy to answer questions if we can. And if we can't, we'll go research it so we can put it in next time.
Thanks, guys. This was great. I wish I had that when I moved to Denver a few years ago. But we're going to put that online, the slides as well as the video. And then I'll send out an email to everybody who attended today so that you know when it's available, so you don't have to check every 5 minutes to see if it's available yet. Okay. Yeah, as Robbie said, we can take questions if you guys have any. I know there was a lot of information, and a lot of it is actually, you guys presented it so well. It's all, fairly self-explanatory and good to have as a reference. So, but if there are any questions, feel free to ask now if you have any.
I can't see the chat box, and I'm afraid to get out of my screen share. I guess I will. Okay. Do that. I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't gotten that, Robbie. We haven't gotten any in the chat box.
Okay, maybe everybody left.
I don't know. We still have them here. Lori was asking, are group hikes happening now with Vivid?
Yeah, well, yes and no. We have had a series of protocols come out every month, and right now we are able to do it. The biggest issue for a lot of trip leaders is, do they want to take the risk, A, and B, carpooling until this month was actually forbidden, and they're trying to keep in step with the state, and they can't really change that. But this month it went from 8 to 10 people, and there are people not only taking out trips, but also taking out backpacks. But not as many. If you go back a year ago and look at what was on the calendar a year ago, it's probably less than 10% right now. But we're all kind of getting itchy, so I think it'll come. Yes, thank you.
You should consult the protocols online at cmc.org. Currently, there is obviously social distancing. They're asking people to wear a mask anytime you get close to other hikers. We did, for example, today. We're very blessed out on the Brookside McCurdy Trail. We only ran into 2 other hikers in 8 miles. It was pretty amazing. So we just got off the trail, put on our masks, and both parties just continued on without talking.
They didn't have masks.
They didn't have masks, so glad we were able to help them.
So it's good to see, and they put a lot of thought into it. I can't really say that any of the conventions, aren't totally logical, but it is hard. I really enjoy CMC trips for the carpooling. Usually we're working so hard when we go up country that most of our talking takes place in the car. So when carpools were forbidden, that didn't make it very much fun. Plus, who wants to have a bunch of people all, going too far up country? Yeah. Now we can do it. And I saw something in USA Today that said if everybody in the car is wearing a mask and everybody has the windows down at least 3 inches, that works. And I saw that show up to a certain extent in the current CMC protocol.
Yeah, one thing we didn't mention in this presentation was a good deal of a CMC hike, or one of the better experiences, is the post hike.
Yeah, stop and have a beer.
Stop and have a beer and chat about the hike, and get to know your fellow hikers if you didn't get to speak with them on the hike itself, which we're kind of inhibited from doing right now, particularly with new hikers.
Yeah.
There are just people with absolutely amazing backgrounds in the club, from all walks of life, amazing professional backgrounds in many cases, and really interesting people to talk to and share experiences with. Some of them have hiked all over the world. We've got people in the club that have climbed Everest and other major peaks.
But don't be intimidated, because a lot of people, they just want a day hike here.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you can learn how to avoid that kind of thing and just go on something that works for you at CMC Denver.
Nice.
Anything else?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Yes,
Hey,
David.
I think David has a question.
Yeah, I sent you a text, but I was curious. I've not gotten involved yet, or when I joined, the whole COVID thing hit. I'm kind of wondering what is like a easy, medium, or like a hard hike. I walk a lot here in Denver. I'm 68. I'm in pretty good health, but and I, like yesterday, I walked about 5 to 7 miles just to go buy a couple of groceries and stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know how to. I don't want to show up and be like way out of.
No, you wouldn't be. Usually our new member nights, and actually we did our first virtual one a couple of weeks ago, and it was good. But you can also go, if you look at the calendar at cmc.org, on the left side is how the hiking classification works. And generally the hikes are rated A, B, C, and D. So there's even examples. An A easy hike, I think, is under 1,200 foot gain and under 8 miles or something. And usually on an A hike, the speed is less than on a B, less speed than on a C and D. And also there's probably more stops on an A than on a B, C, and D. And so a good example of an A hike would be North Table, something like that. B hike, I think, goes up to 12 miles. It's all there at the calendar.
Okay. Right.
And so it's partly knowing if you're used, like we were stuck here too. We live in Denver, and so the 10-mile thing killed us. We had to just go around the stadium all the time. And but if once you just go on one, and the other thing I'd recommend is writing a note to the trip leader. They're all volunteers. They're all very accessible. They know when they become a trip leader and start leading hikes that people will have questions. And just write. The email is always there, and the phone number. Just write or call and say, "I'm new. I don't know. Can you tell me?" And they will be glad to talk to you about it.
Right. Thank you.
Can I add something here real quick?
Yes.
Because that at least affects me all the time. That is, the rating system is based on distance and elevation gain as the main factors that determine A, B, C, D, and then there's something that modifiers like pace, for instance. And as Robbie said, we're making frequent stops, or we're not stopping at all, or whatever you want to add there. One thing to consider in addition, and a lot of people will add that in that text, but one thing that really will affect most people is what elevation you start on. So the same hike in terms of distance and elevation gain, if that starts at 6,000 feet, it's going to be much easier than if it would start at 11,000 feet. So if you look at those hikes, make sure your first hike. Your first hike is not a 14er, for instance, unless you can handle the altitude, for instance.
If it's the longest day of the year, go for it and go at your own speed. We just spent a month at sea level out in California with some family issues. So we just started. Today was part of our effort to get our fitness back. Even if you just come back and at 5,000, 5,280, it helps. But going and hiking at those, and there's a lot of all these hikes I mentioned, like at All Trails, they'll tell you exactly what the elevation is, where it starts, where it ends. They'll tell you whether it goes up and down or it goes straight up. That's another issue for me, but just goes straight up. And so I need a little warm up time. So all those things, I would say go out and start hiking and up there and see, see how you do.
Okay, yeah, I've done a little of that, and I'm going to keep going. I've committed to going river rafting down the Grand Canyon next year, right before I turn 70. So I'm kind of like, okay, I've got to really get in shape for this. So anyway, thank you. Really appreciate your guidance. So I'm going to get out really soon.
Okay, any other questions? I know it was a lot, but I wanted to all be there for you, and I didn't want you to have to take notes, so there you are.